Welcome to Empty the Bench, episode 201 on the Empty the Bench podcast network. That's Albano. I'm Nick Morgasen. Follow us on social media at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or X, at ETB Sports. Follow us at ETB Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for the Empty the Bench podcast network. Follow us on YouTube, youtube.com/ETB Network. Last check around 540 subscribers. So make sure you like, subscribe, comment. We got a lot of comments on some YouTube shorts lately. I'll maybe get to that at the end of the show. Also, follow our website, etbpodcast.com. Lots and lots of blogging content, including NFL and gambling content. So make sure you go check that out as well. Also, if you want to take us on the road and you don't want to watch us on video, find us on your favorite audio podcasting platforms, Acast, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and a bunch of other platforms as well. All right. We got a lot to get into this week. We are going to be very NFL heavy this week and baseball. Yes, we're going to talk baseball. And I know we make that joke every week.
Well, some baseball. And actually, we have some specifics with the stories we're going to be talking about with football, because it's a lot of this. A lot of, I shouldn't say fighting, but the damage that gets caused from fighting. A lot of injuries that have taken place in the NFL. Particularly with one Nick Chubb, Joe Burrow, which we talked about last week, our good friend and Saquon Barkley, and it gets to the point. Of course, we have an update from Mr. RELAX himself.
RELAX.
Nah.
And it gets to the point. It gets to the point, Nick, that the NFL is claiming that the NFLPA is telling the running backs to exaggerate their injuries.
This story is so insane. We'll break that all down for you. Also, Patrick Mahomes gets a restructured contract, most paid in 3 years between 2023 and 2026, $210 million guaranteed. We'll break that all down as well. Also, Michigan State begins the process of firing Mel Tucker after a long dispute over, I think, sexual assault allegations. We'll get into all that. We'll get into Thursday Night Football as well, as we do during the football season. Also, we'll get into Shohei Ohtani's injury. We'll get into the Rays, which Tom finally called on that. Getting a new stadium. Finally.
Hallelujah.
Also, are we actually going to talk golf on here?
4.
Just be careful. You might get hit by a gambling debt that he might have. Phil Mickelson said he isn't wagering on football games this season, and he continues to recover from gambling addiction. Well, hey, Phil, maybe if you didn't gamble hundreds of millions of dollars, you wouldn't have to play golf on the Live Tour anymore.
Oh. All right. Speaking of, let's start this week's episode. And Nick, this is one of those cases where, when we were talking about the Giants, you were ravaging on Saquon Barkley, and I said, well, if we're talking about Saquon, what his potential future is, we talked about the lifespan of a running back in the National Football League and how short it was. We said if we had questions about Saquon, then we should have questions about Nick Chubb, because that he was in the same draft class. And Nick, I hate when I'm right, but it's worse than that. I should not be right, because he was doing really well for himself for the first couple of weeks. And then in the middle of Monday Night Football, he gets hurt. He and Minkah Fitzpatrick of the Steelers collide. And Nick, it seems like, trying to demonstrate it, that his knee basically goes within the other direction of the direction that his leg was traveling in. I could have actually screamed Theismann when I saw that injury.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You and I talked about that during I swear I saw that because I was flipping back and forth, which, by the way, brilliant job, ESPN, for running 2 games right on top of. But I watched that injury in live time, and Buck and Aikman said that they couldn't even show the replay for the injury. And I saw the leg. It straightened up and went backward. It was one of the most excruciating. And Nick Chubb, it has a history of that. I should say history. He had a major injury back in 2015.
Right, a similar kind of injury when he was in his, I think it was his college days, or maybe the end of high school. But when I'm watching that, Nick, I'm watching the footage. Now, at first, I don't see the clear angle. I see the far away angle like they usually show on TV. So I'm looking at it. I see him flip, and I see him and Fitzpatrick both on the ground in pain. And I'm like,
He got
okay,
hurt too.
right. I said, okay, maybe they collided, but it was a really bad collision. And I said, maybe both their legs are screwed up, both going to be out a while. And then I get the I forget where I saw this. Maybe it was Tree or whatever the source Tree got hit from was.
Let's just say X, because it was everywhere on X afterwards.
Yeah. And oh my God, when I saw it up close, I winced. I winced and turned away at the first thing. And I said, look, we can talk about his season. We can talk about how much the Browns are effed now. But my God, my first concern at this point is
Is he okay?
Is he? Well, he's not okay, but how soon can we get this man walking again, let alone just playing football? Because the way that injury was, and the fact that I nearly screened thighs, could be a career-ending injury.
I mean, I'm going to go a step further and say it probably is a career ender because he's had an injury like this before where I think he tore an ACL, an MCL, and a PCL, I think was what happened back in 2015. Adam Schefter had the tweet from way back when.
His knee exploded.
Yes, it absolutely exploded. It was one of those things where it was just like, holy shit, what the hell just happened here on the field? And I'm telling you right now, the Browns, and first of all, Deshaun Watson's now going to have to show that Mr. $45 million a year is worth having at the starting quarterback position. Because if they don't, they got to put all the pressure on Deshaun now to perform. First of all, he looked like shit. The only reason they were in that game was because Nick Chubb was running the football.
And the only reason I think they beat the Bengals in week 1 was because Joe Burrow was not healthy, which we'll get to in a second.
But Nick Chubb, I don't know, maybe you don't agree with me or not. I think he was the top running back in the NFL.
I don't know if I can necessarily say the top running back in the NFL when you still have guys like Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler. But the issue is that for all that we talk about with the running back and the depressed market and their value and such and the injuries, Nick Chubb has been a consistent performer ever since he was drafted, along with the likes of Saquon Barkley in that 2018 draft. I remember that 2018 draft and the Browns had just traded for Tyrod Taylor just a couple of months earlier. And Tyrod Taylor, keep in mind that this was the season in which Tyrod Taylor was this was the offseason after the season where Tyrod Taylor, as the quarterback of the Bills, led the Bills to their first playoff berth since like 2000. And I'm like, okay, cool. So Tyrod's going to lead. And then the Bills the Browns with the number 1 pick picked Baker Mayfield. I'm like, so Saquon Barkley was right there, and you already traded for Tyrod Taylor. Now, granted, Baker Mayfield had I can't say a successful, but okay career in Cleveland and did get Cleveland to its first playoff spot in what seems like forever. And yes, that was younger me thinking about, not really thinking about the idea of, hey, running backs you can get in the second, third, fourth round. And that's what the Browns did. They drafted Baker first in the first round, and then they saved in a later round Nick Chubb. And well, the Browns kind of proved us wrong in that one. The Browns were the ones laughing at that point with Nick Chubb. But now, I mean,
they're screwed. They're absolutely screwed now with Chubb out.
I mean, I give credit to Jerome Ford for the effort that he was putting on, and now he's going to get some lead back opportunities. They just re-signed Kareem Hunt, I guess, an emergency signing, who can be a good third down or a pace back.
They said that he's going to get a ton of carries, though. I mean, am I surprised? No. Is his off-the-field antics a problem? Yes. But the NFL, it doesn't seem to matter what goes on off the field. They'll bring in whoever the next man up is at the running back position. Now, wait a second. The thing that I wanted to bring up also, which you and I talked about, we started to talk about at the beginning of this, the owners were right. We need to admit that the owners were right about the running back position because it's proven already this season. How many running back injuries have we had already? Saquon, Chubb, Jamal Williams. The list goes on with all these running back issues. That's why the owners don't want to play, and that's why you're seeing collusion from the running backs trying to get together for the contracts.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about that grievance afterwards from the league, which may have been, I agree with you. I agree with you that the end of the players don't have a leg to stand on. I just think that grievance might have been a little much, but that's
Was that a pun intended, by the way?
What?
Was that a pun intended, by the way? You're saying they don't have a leg to stand on?
Oh my god. No. No. I'm horrible.
Sorry.
Goodbye, everyone.
Go ahead. Sorry, I needed to laugh for a second. My point is that this running back position is expandable. It's you don't need the guy that you're paying $20 million a year for anymore. I think Nick Chubb, ironically, was the last one to get the running back contract.
CMC might have a word to say about that.
Well, CMC already had a contract through Carolina. They just traded his contract. I'm talking about Nick Chubb was the last one to get an extension.
Well, here's the thing with Chubb. Like, he was a really big part of the Browns offense. Remember when Deshaun came in and my concern was that the Browns were a run-first offense and how that was going to affect Nick Chubb? Well, guess what? Now they're going to need Deshaun to sling it, and I don't know. Can he get to the 2019 Deshaun form? Yes, but I think it's possible. But that 2017 Deshaun form, where he had, DeAndre Hopkins and such. I mean, he still had DeAndre in 2019. That was right before the trade happened. But
they just got back Amari Cooper from injury, but Amari Cooper is not the DeAndre Hopkins of old.
No, I mean, Amari Cooper today is not the Amari Cooper of old.
Oh, no. And I wasn't even comparing the two. I'm just saying he got back a receiver. Deshaun Watson missing those 2 years will always be the death of his career because he didn't play. 1, he sat out. 2, he had injuries. 3, he had the allegations that came out against him, and it just screwed his career. Look what happened to Michael Vick. Now, obviously, he went to jail. That's a whole different issue.
Different circumstances.
But my point is, what happened to Michael Vick after that? He never was the same player again. So when you have extenuating circumstances in the NFL, it doesn't work. Go ask Colin Kaepernick, who keeps trying to get on a team, and he hasn't played in 7 years. Why do you think no one's taking a chance on Colin Kaepernick?
I mean,
Same reason.
7 years.
You could work out until the cows come home. Just because you work out doesn't mean you're playing in an NFL competition. So, again, this injury is tough. The Browns, and you and I and everybody else like to talk about it from a gambling perspective also. The Browns are going to be underdogs for the rest of the season without Nick Chubb. There's just no way. They're not going to be able to start up the offense. Now everyone can say, Deshaun Watson! Yeah. Tell me how that works out.
I mean, at this point, like I said, right now, my concern is just, can we get this man walking again? Because that was an absolute gruesome injury. My thoughts go out to him, and it's just, it's going to be a tough recovery for him.
And you know what's frustrating me also? I saw it on social media. People's first reactions when they see aggressive injuries.
Oh no, my fantasy team.
Well, that's a whole nother issue, which I don't understand. Like you and I, who are in fantasy or in gambling, our first thing is to say, "Oh my God, what happened to my fantasy team?" These are real life human beings. Like we forget that. We forget, like, oh my God, these guys are actually putting their bodies on the line to play a professional sport, which they get compensated for big time. I get it. But these guys have lives, too. We forget that here.
Think about all the players who get death threats after screwing up on the field.
Well, and I know this is a little off topic. In Colorado, with Deion Sanders.
Yeah, exactly. The Colorado State game.
Where, what was it, the guy who hit Travis Hunter, and then he was getting death threats. And I'm like, it's a game, as you would say. It's a game kids play.
Well, I was going to say, it's worse than that. That's college. It's college kids.
Well, not that I'm making excuses. Could they have been drunk? Could they have been on something? Not that that makes it any better by any means. But, like, it's a game. We play it to have fun. We're not. I understand, like when you get to the career level, when you get to the NFL, you got to make money. That's how you make a living. But In my opinion, if fans do that, they should be banned from an arena and not be allowed to come back. That's how I look at it. You're going to make death threats. There's the door. Don't come back.
All right. Let's move from Nick Chubb. We'll talk about more running backs in a second, but there's another AFC North player with who's on the injury report. That's something to talk about. Once again, we were proven right. It is Joe Burrow. Joey B gets his bag, and now he's banged up. And it's hard to say, according to the report, as of Wednesday the 20th, that Joe Burrow will even play in the Week 3 matchup this week, which I believe is a Monday Night Football game against the Los Angeles Rams, a rematch of the 2022 Super Bowl.
By the way, I'm going to take a victory lap right now because I called this in the preview and I said that the Bengals are not going to make the playoffs. People thought I was nuts. Like that. I didn't like them. I don't like the way their team is. Their offensive line is a mess. And Burrow, who got injured in the preseason of all places, when they say, and you know what the owners and everybody are going to say now, oh my God, he got hurt in the preseason. That means no one should play in the preseason.
Well, here's the thing. It wasn't even in the preseason.
It was in the workouts.
It was a training camp, right?
Which is crazy. And you know what? And by the way, Burrow is probably one of the dumbest quarterbacks. And I don't mean from a strategic standpoint. I mean from, how do you not sign your contract before you get hurt in the preseason?
Well, I mean, he got his bag either way, so.
And the Bengals are stupid. The Bengals should have said, all right, you got hurt. Now I got to worry about that. All right, now I'm going to make him the highest paid quarterback in the history of the game. Well, from a per yearly standpoint, because obviously Patrick Mahomes got the biggest contract. But I don't try. And by the way, he was hurt. We could clearly tell he was hurt.
He did not look like himself in the first couple of weeks. He didn't look like himself in the Browns game. And then he didn't look like himself in week 2.
You know what this is? This is pressure because you sign a $275 million contract. All the pressure is on you. You need to be out there so we win.
Well, it also can relate. You want to talk about the contract. Perhaps it could also relate to the fact that the Chargers blinked first and gave Justin Herbert his payday, which meant that Burrow was going to have to get his payday. So Burrow, you could say, maybe toughened through that injury to get and try to recover quicker in order to get his bag.
I wonder if the Bengals, like, secretly behind closed doors were like, shit, they paid him first. Now we got to give him more.
Absolutely. Did we not say it was going to be a blinking contest between Herbert and Chargers and Burrow and the Bengals?
It's just funny, though, because I still think, I will always think Justin Herbert is a better quarterback than Burrow, even though Burrow has played more important games. I think in the long run, if Herbert was on the correct team, he would win a lot. This is not the correct team for Justin Herbert.
Or, I hate being the kind of person to call for somebody's job, but knock on wood, this is the Chargers are going on the path to get Brandon Staley out of that head coaching position in LA.
I mean, there's only one thing there's a couple things I could say, but one is,
oh my God!
That's what I think of Brandon Staley. That's what Brandon Staley thinks every time like a situation comes up where he was leading and then he just throws the house away.
Which, by the way, thank you, Chargers defense, for costing me my lock this week. How do you lose? So I picked them because I said, oh, well, they actually performed well against Miami. That was Miami. You lost to the goddamn Titans.
What did I tell? Well, again, you didn't hear it. I'll repeat it because I said it on last Football Friday. I said that even though I'm picking the Chargers, because that would be silly if I had picked the Titans really to win that game. Mm-hmm. I said I was on the fence. I literally said this. I said the Titans could win this game, but I'm not foolish enough to pick them to win.
In other words, what your feeling with that game was the feeling like I had when we were on our unspoken days where it was the Pats Eagles. We were talking about that Super Bowl, and I said that the Eagles had the chance. That it would be foolish to not pick the Pats, but the Eagles did have the chance, and then the Eagles ended up winning that game.
That's clearly where I was. I said that I'm on the fence. I have to pick the Chargers because that would be foolish to be the one person that stood out when the Chargers won. But I said, watch, the Titans could win this game. And now I got to rethink everything with the Chargers, which you've already said, because Brandon Staley can't lead a team. Now, I don't even think he was a assistant coach, head coach, or anything. Wasn't he an offensive coordinator?
Well, the reason, hold on, because the reason you were mentioning that I was rethinking everything the Chargers is because I think back, I told you this in our pre-show meeting. I think back to it was like 09 or 10, maybe it was 10, where the Chargers had like the best or one of the best offensive defenses in the league, but their special teams was one of, if not the worst, and that ultimately cost them a playoff spot in that season. And now this could be very well be a season, Nick, where I like what Justin Herbert has done so far with his connections to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. Like I said, one of the best running backs in the NFL. But that defense, man, that defense is kind of falling apart. And now
yeah. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say now you go from playing the Titans, who you just got absolutely embarrassed by, and now you got to play the Vikings. Now you got to play against Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say, and I just created a new banner for an occasion because I'm about to do something wild. This is my first wild. Nick's crazy hot take is about to come out.
Oh no! Hold on a minute. This calls for a sound effect. I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of this sound effect. Although it's taken a bit of a place in my heart as of late. But this calls.
Okay, so try to follow my logic because I know sometimes some of my takes are a little out there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hold on. I'm also trying to get your Brandon Staley info. So he, prior to becoming the head coach of the Chargers in 2021, he was their defensive coordinator. The year before that, he was the outside linebackers coach for the Broncos. A couple of years as outside linebackers coach with the Bears. And then prior to 2017, he was a college, graduate assistant, defensive line coach, secondary coach, DC.
So basically no experience. Okay, got it. So here's the crazy hot take. Now, I've said some pretty crazy things, and Tom can attest I've said some pretty crazy things in the past.
Oh God, yeah.
Hey, some of them have gotten us a lot of views because people see the point in them. Now, follow my logic. I think Jerry Jones should call the Chargers and make a trade for Justin Herbert.
You know what the Chargers... First of all, Jerry Jones would absolutely be for that. But you know what the Chargers would say? Oh, hell no. We just signed him to a 5-year deal. Or however long it was.
By the way, I'm serious. I'm not saying this to blow smoke. I think that the Cowboys should call the Chargers and make a trade for Justin Herbert. Because that is the type of guy that could come in to Dallas and put them over the top offensively.
Well, you know what, Nick? I'm very glad that you said that because I have told you, I have been on this show, on this network, and have told you that I cannot stand the production that we get under Dak Prescott. So you know what? I'm going to do that. I need to contact the Chargers, and I'm going to tease them about potentially trading for Justin Herbert because after the Brandon Staley experiment goes wrong again, they're going to be left with some questions. And you know what? If I can swoop in and just land Justin Herbert to get him on the Cowboys and get that damn Dak out of here, that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, my God.
You weren't expecting the Jerry impression, were you?
No, I wasn't expecting that. But my point is, to finish that, I would say, Jerry, call the Chargers, make a trade in any means necessary to get Herbert, and I would cut Dak Prescott.
I mean, Dak, I think, is pretty much good as gone after this season, in all honesty. You're damn right, Tom.
But that's my... I believe it or not, I don't think that's as crazy as it sounds, though, does it?
I think it's a little out there.
But I could see it. Like, imagine plugging Justin Herbert in over Dak Prescott and putting him in that situation.
I get what you're saying when it comes to the Cowboys and Justin Herbert playing under them. What I don't, it's just that Justin Herbert has already signed a big deal with the Chargers. They have pegged him as, their quarterback, their franchise player. They And I say that because Austin Eckler is probably good as gone after this offseason.
He got hurt.
If he gets the right offer. But my point...
He got hurt.
Okay, maybe that even furthers my point that Herbert is the franchise guy. It's going to take a lot for them to move their franchise guy.
But I'm saying is, and I think you agreed with me in the past, Herbert is on a team where it's a bunch of guys that are
better. Yes, he does deserve better.
But what is it? Mike Williams, who got hurt and has been hurt. Eckler, who's been hurt. I mean, you need to go to a team, even though we laugh and we joke about the Cowboys. For the most part, they're healthy. They are. Also defensive player of the year on that team. And Micah Parsons, you don't have to worry about the pressure of having to score 30 points a game just to win.
Right. Unless you're the New York Giants, where you just give that up anyway.
Speaking of the Giants.
Oh, hi, Saquon. All right. Well, first of all, so Saquon Barkley gets injured during the Week 2 game against the Arizona Cardinals, which, by the way, the biggest comeback in New York Giants in the last 99 years of the New York Giants. So congratulations, Arizona. You really have proven yourself to be the worst team in the NFL this season.
By the way, the Giants should have lost that game. Like, they should have clearly lost that game in every way, shape, or form.
If they had lost that game, I would have said that the Giants were going to go 0-17 then.
Oh, so now you're going to pull a me when it comes to the season just being a complete abomination if they go 0-2.
Nick, in the words of Woody Page, check the schedule. The Bills, the Dolphins. I would say even the Saints, because Derek Carr as the Saints, are they great? No. Are they at least average? Are they at least, putting up a fight in games? Yes. So that's a problem.
Especially when Alvin Kamara comes back.
Right. The Jets and Patriots might be a little bit of toss-ups. But, the Pack, Jordan Love has been playing actually pretty decently, pretty good, I should say. That could be a problem. So the Cardinals were one of the easiest teams, one of the easiest, if not the easiest team on the Giants' schedule. And look how bad they struggled.
I mean, I'm looking at their schedule as we speak right now. So we're going to get to the next game, Week 3, in a little bit. But obviously you're at San Francisco for Monday Night Football, part of the doubleheader. Then Seattle on ABC. Miami, wait a minute. By the way, we need to talk about the rarity of the schedule. Back-to-back Monday Night Footballs. That's never happened. Ever.
Wait,
at least not from my...
Wait, for the Giants?
Yeah.
Who?
The Giants play the Niners, and then they play the Seahawks.
The Niners are Thursday Night Football.
Oh, are they Thursday? No.
Yes, Thursday.
Oh, back-to-back primetime games. Excuse me. They're playing back-to-back primetime games. The Giants
haven't had back-to-back primetime games in a long time.
That's what I should have said. That's a rarity. You don't see back-to-back primetime games unless you're a team like the Chiefs or the Eagles.
Well, the Giants have barely had any primetime games in a while, except for an occasional Thursday night or Monday night appearance.
By the way, the NFL must be being like, oh shit, Saquon's out. What are we going to do with these games?
But you know what? At least it's only for 3 weeks. At least it's just an ankle sprain. So that means he is going to come back at some point. So is it bad? Yes, but it's not the end of the world.
I think this proves the points to Giants ownership won even more because you can't give him a long-term deal.
Well, again, he's going to have no argument. If he gets franchise tag again, he's going to have no argument.
I mean, if I were the Giants, and I said this many times, so this is not me purely speculating here. I literally said the Giants ownership should have said F you and walked away. Because what are they gaining from him always being hurt?
Remember, they signed James Robinson. They were planning to do it. And then that running back's Zoom call where they basically said, well, we're kind of screwed. Saquon finally gave in. Which, by the way, you could have cut one of whoever the fourth string or the practice guys. You're telling me you couldn't have kept James Robinson, that Saquon, James Robinson, and Matt Breida as your three. And now
that was bad.
And now you're paying the price for that.
Yeah, that was bad. That was bad. Like, for some reason, the Giants, Like the running back position has always been like a weird question mark for them over the years. Like they don't know how to handle it.
Well, James Robinson is still a free agent, so if Saquon's injury gets worse or he has another devastating injury to put him out for the rest of the season, I'm calling up James Robinson right away at that point and trying to get him back.
And that's the problem with the running back position. There are literally 10 other running backs sitting out there waiting to be called. And that's why the Giants were not willing to pay him, because they know he's going to go down for a 3-week stretch every year.
All right, since we brought up the running backs and we talked about the market and stuff, I think that's transition time into this story. So the NFL has filed a grievance. They are claiming that the Players Association are advising running backs to exaggerate their injuries. And
This is silly.
Okay, so some of what I have been seeing about this kind of story is that the NFLPA, I want to double check my source on this, on what Rappaport said about this story, but I think the reality is that the NFLPA was saying that with running backs, since we're not gonna get paid with the bags that we want, because of what your arguments were. It's not that to exaggerate the injuries, but it's you get what you pay. The saying is you get what you pay for. In other words, it seems like the NFLPA, according to the Rappaport stance about what the NFLPA said, was that, if you're still banged up, let's say you're banged up, but the team's trying to rush you back because competitiveness comes to playoff. Your answer then is no, because you need to rest your body.
Well, so here's the exact statement from the AP, which ESPN put up. The NFL has filed a grievance against the NFLPA, alleging that union leaders, including President J.C. Tretter, have advised running backs to, quote, consider, I don't even know how to say that word, finagling or exaggerating injuries to help increase their leverage in contract negotiations. In a memo sent to the league's management council, executive committee, and obtained by the Associated Press, the NFL said the union made the suggestion to running backs during a Zoom meeting before the season. Any player who took the union's advice and faked an injury would be violating the CBA, the league argued.
Well, now here's my problem with that. Read that first sentence again.
Which one?
About leverage.
Let me see if I can. Oh, you're talking about they had advised running backs to consider finagling or exaggerating injuries to help increase their leverage in contract negotiations.
Hold on a minute.
That's silly.
How does getting an injury help your leverage? We just talked about the depressed market because of the short term of running backs and the increase in. How does that make sense?
That makes it worse. It makes it way worse. You're telling me that you're going to get injured as a leverage? Really?
Which by the way, if what I think it was Rappaport, like I said, who had reported, if their stance on it was just, if the team's trying to rush you back because they're not paying running backs, say no, then guess what? That I'll actually, the NFL and their owners are right into maybe not giving them the backs, but that means that the NFLPA and the running backs are right in that if they're not going to rush back because they want to keep their bodies healthy and they want to be 100%, I think they get that right too.
Go ask Jonathan Taylor how he feels about that right now.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, this whole thing, hey, NFL.
You need to shut the fuck up.
Because I'm tired of this. The NFL makes, what, $17 billion a year.
But here's the frustrating part, Nick. We just said that the owners were right and their points was being proven, and then they do something stupid like this.
There's never a clear-cut 100% to one side or the other. There's always going to be the NFL does something stupid, the NFLPA does something stupid, and then they mash right in the middle over something stupid like this. And you can't win. And it goes on to say, quote, this conduct is a clear violation of the union's agreement to use best efforts to faithfully carry out the terms and conditions of the CBA and to see that the terms and conditions of all NFL player contracts are carried out in full by players. The union's conduct is also reckless, as any player that chooses to follow this advice and improperly withhold services under his player contract will be subject to discipline and financially liable under the CBA, club rules, and our player's contract.
Hey, Roger, this is your point as commissioner where you need to step in and do something at this point.
Unfortunately, though,
Emotional damage.
there's damage like everywhere around right now. The NFL at the top is damaged. The NFLPA is damaged in every way, shape, or form, and they're both gonna shoot each other until one falls down. It's like a bad version of a Western, like when they both, where the two things are on each side, and they both open the doors on each side and they're ready to shoot. But unfortunately, the Western Showdown. But unfortunately, they realized that when they pulled the thing back, that the bullet each went back towards them instead of towards the opponent. They shot themselves rather than shooting the opponent.
They also played themselves.
Yes, they played themselves. There's no victory in this at all whatsoever. Nobody can win. The only reason the NFL is going to win is because they hold the $17 billion in revenue a year that they have. They hold the power.
All right. We now move from the running back position. We have another quarterback that we have to talk about. And Nick, I want you to close your eyes and have a moment of zen. And in this zen, I want you to think of the flowing water streams. I want you to think of the birds chirping and the nice, calm, peaceful setting. And I just want you to
RELAX.
Nah. Nah.
So, Nick, Aaron Rodgers thinks he can be ready for the playoffs. He has undergone his surgery. He has undergone his procedure. And, well, he thinks the hope is that this procedure that he's undergone is so, the fact that they took precautions right away and he's going to work to rehab himself, that there's a chance he will be ready for the playoffs come the end of the season.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop you fucking lying.
I mean, really? And by the way, the reason that they're making this claim, this was the same doctor that fixed Kobe's injury back in the day, which got him back a lot sooner. And apparently this doctor's like a miracle doctor. Like he's gotten people back way sooner than they were supposed to.
Right. And you know what? If that's true, I give him credit because I remember when Kobe came back and it's just how superhuman he was. So that
But this is a torn Achilles, for crying out loud. Like people forget how bad his leg basically exploded, incinerated when he got hit. So I'm not holding my breath at all.
But here's the other problem I have with it, Nick. And hold on, I'm going to bring my phone out for an emergency sound effect because I think we have a little caller into this show. He's a great former NFL head coach. It's Jim Mora. Jim, you have something to say?
Playoffs? We'll talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Because that's the problem around here. We could talk about the Jets and playoffs all we want. The fact that Zach Wilson is now leading this team, I have questions if this team is going to make the playoffs. Nick, what did I say last week? You know what making the playoffs and not making the playoffs is going to come down to? It's going to come down to the defense. Sauce Gardner, Nick, you and I predicted him as Defensive Player of the Year. He's going to have to play up to that standard and then some for this team to make the playoffs.
If he wins Defensive Player of the Year, they're probably going to win close to 10 games. First of all, Zach Wilson. All right. And people are telling me like I'm overreacting about Zach Wilson and like he's a good quarterback. What in God's name do you think he's a good quarterback?
Listen. If Aaron Rodgers is still going to mentor him, as they say, do those Zoom calls or whatever, be there on the practice field and still try to mentor him, there is a shot of development. But Nick, if I'm going off of just what I saw in the first 2 years before Aaron came to New York, Zach Wilson has a lot to live up to at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want you to be solely in misery, Nick, with the Jets and such and Zach Wilson, because I want to bring up another point that actually was making its rounds on social media and we discussed in our pre-show meeting.
the 2021 draft class for quarterbacks. Dear God, this might go down as one of the most overhyped and just overrated and bust of quarterback class ever. Because, first of all, at the top, you have Trevor Lawrence, who, fair enough, he is exceeding. He is probably going to be the next guy who gets the bag after Herbert and Burrow. Zach Wilson, we already discussed. And I think, Nick, as much as we crap on Zach Wilson, the fact that the 49ers traded up those picks and picked Trey Lance at number 3 and he barely saw the field, I think is an even worse situation, especially now that they ended up trading him to Dallas for, what, a 4th-round pick?
Yes. Yeah.
Justin Fields is going to talk himself out of a job at this rate.
That was insane. I mean, the guy throws his coaching staff under the bus and then tries to walk it back. Really?
Really, that happened. Mac Jones, I think the hoodie is pretty much fed up with Mac Jones at this point.
Well, I don't know if Bill Belichick really has much of a choice. That's all right. They're going to win this week anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I don't have my sweatshirt. I can't do the hoodie right now.
Yeah, I mean, like they're going to win this week, so his job will be safe at least for 1 week. But
and then after Mac Jones, and then we just have like a bunch of backups, like Kellen Mond was backup for the Vikings, and then you had Davis Mills, who was it with Houston during their, let's say, tanking phase, that they just got CJ Stroud, who just replaced him.
Talk about a guy who just had a career in general, just being on as a backup and just say, I'll just keep getting paid to sit here. No problem. It's like Kyle Orton when Tony Romo was in Dallas, and Kyle Orton got paid $10 million a year basically to sit on the bench.
Yep.
I was like, wow, that's an easy job. Give me the clipboard. I'll sit there for $10 million. But I have another take. And where's that banner again? Because this one's not as crazy. I wouldn't call this crazy hot take, but I'll use it anyway.
You're still bringing it up. So where's the danger alarm? Yeah.
This one's not as crazy, though, as Herbert going to Dallas. But the Jets should call Minnesota and trade for Kirk Cousins.
The only issue I see with that, Nick, I would say the only issue I see with that is Kirk is in the last year of his extension. And really Minnesota, I get they're 0-2, but they're still going to try to maintain some form of competitiveness. Remember, they still have Justin Jefferson, probably the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. Jordan Addison has performed pretty well. And Nick, in a bit of, I can't even say breaking news because it's still been a couple of hours before we recorded, and now it's been near 24 hours when it airs. Cam Akers is now in Minnesota.
I was shocked, but I understand why they did it.
So, my point is, like, if they had another quarterback, if this was about week 8 and they were like 2-6, then yeah, I could totally see that happening. But it's still too early in the season for something like that.
No, but I'm saying I don't know when the trade deadline is this year. I think it's Halloween.
It's always about week. I think it's Halloween because it's always about week 8 or week 9.
If I'm the Jets, I call up Minnesota and say, "I'll give you 1 first-round pick. You give me Kirk Cousins."
You'd give up a first rounder.
Well, you didn't lose the first-round pick for Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, that is true. That is true. Like I said. It's from the Vikings standpoint, which I can talk about from my roots. I think a little too early. I think even though the Vikings are down 0-2, everybody in the division in the NFC North lost last week. So, everybody's 1-1 except the Vikings who are 0-2. I think it's way too early for them to sell on Kirk Cousins.
I just think he doesn't really get hurt as much. He's pretty consistent. He knows how to move out of the pocket, unlike Zach Wilson. That's always going to be the knock on Zach Wilson. He has Eli Manning syndrome, and I don't mean the clutchness. I mean that he doesn't move his feet. What happened to Eli every time he didn't move his feet?
Well, his offensive line would fail him, and he'd get crumpled.
And be on the floor. That's the same thing with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson will take the sack rather than move out of the pocket. That's why they got destroyed last week, 30-10.
Well, even I think he's still somewhat mobile. But Nick, the Jets and Giants now, the two New York teams, share the same problem. And we can rename New York. I think in honor of the New York football struggles, Nick, we should rename New York to O-line, O-line.
That's good.
All right. Let's talk about some good quarterback news, Nick. The Chiefs' Patrick Mahomes restructuring of the contract, $210.6 million between 23 and 26.
Holy money!
I'm telling you what this is. So that way they can pay some more money up front. So that way in later years, one, if he downgrades, then it's less money. Number two, and I think the bigger reason and more important reason, Nick, is what I told you in the meeting that, so that way they can get him some more weapons in future years because the last couple weeks have shown that I can't knock the whole team. I can't knock the whole team, but it's proving to be a little bit of a struggle when you consider, Sky Moore actually had a decent game week 2, but week 1 didn't live up to anything. Kadarius Toney, hold on a minute. I had a thought, but I just dropped it. MVS, he's okay, but nobody's putting them over the top like somebody like Kelsey.
Oh, God. And that's going to be a distraction because now with the reports of him reportedly dating Taylor Swift.
Did you hear the Eagle call when he got the touchdown?
Yes. I was laughing hysterically because I'm the biggest Iron Eagle fan I'm the nerdy broadcasting person here. So I laughed hysterically. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. So, it's just more money for him. And yeah, I think it's to get him weapons in future years.
But I'll make one quick thing because we got to keep moving as we're a little behind. But I'll say that $70 million a year for what is it, 4 years? So 210 divided by 4 is what? Quick math, 55 to 60. It's a lot of money, a lot. And I think they're partially doing it to move the contract up so that if he gets hurt when he gets older, they're like, all right, we paid you. You can't get mad at us anymore. You got your money. Now just leave us alone. You won 2 Super Bowls.
Well, speaking of leaving alone, an update to a story from last week, Nick. Mel Tucker now officially going through the firing process. So, Brett McMurphy was right after all, but just jumped the gun a little bit.
Yeah, you and I, we're sticklers when it comes to sourcing and first and all that stuff. Make sure you get your sources right, please, before you reveal information.
Well, I should say, the reason we're not talking about the Bears story right now is because after the time of us recording this, we have no idea what's going on. I'm talking about the story about the Bears defensive coordinator, Alan
Williams.
Yep. Alan Williams, yeah. That, this source is saying that it's for health reasons. That's the statement. And then he got a bunch of all these accounts with Twitter, like the NLF football or whatever, saying certain really bad things and the house being raided.
That the FBI got involved?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Just to clarify, I know we should have done this at the beginning of the show, but now better late than never. Just to clarify, that is the reason we're not talking about this. Next week, if more information, some of that bad stuff develops, we will talk about it. But right now, there's too much conflicting information.
No,
I'm already coming off of one show of the MMA Outsiders where we had conflicting information. I can't go through another.
Now, you and I, because people are going to say, oh, they're too afraid. We've talked about every freaking story there is to man that's controversial on this show. Haven't we not? We don't care. We will talk about it all. So I don't want to hear anything in the comments.
Right. No, but my problem is when Ian Rappaport is saying, yeah, none of that FBI stuff actually happened. It's well, I need for how much we can crap on Schefter and Co. I need a Schefter. I need a Rappaport. I need a Pelissero. I need one of these big guys. Even Dolph Cleveland.
Yeah, who is a figment of our imagination for the most part. But he's right for the most part. But Schefter and Rappaport are 99.9% right. Let's put it that way. They are usually right on the money with every story. So I'm sorry, Brett McMurphy, but you're getting shit on for reporting something before knowing it. All right, let's move on and talk about this. So Mel Tucker is in the process of being fired. I think he was in the middle of a 10-year, $95 million contract, also,
Something
which they're gonna have to sort that out. And that started in 2020, by the way. So they have a lot of years and money to figure out. Some of the allegations were that he was with this woman who was running a charity organization.
They were on the phone, and he was
saying some not so nice things.
Saying some nice things, doing an action that I'm not going to name on this show for purposes of potential kids, but I'll say starts with the letter M.
Yeah. Yep. So, are we saying that he deserves to be fired? Probably. I don't want to say yes. I'll say probably, because again, we don't know the whole story.
Nick, I've said it. I think I've said this phrase a couple of times the last few weeks. I'm going to say it again. Moral clauses.
Well, yes, you and I have been on that trail for years, not just now. I think I've said it a million times. You've said it a million times, mostly in baseball, because that's where a lot of the issues seem to start.
But like you're talking about how they need to sort out the money. Guess what? If you have a moral clause, you know what you can do? Nope. That ain't yours anymore.
Well, no, you just rip the contract up and say, done. See you later. I mean, I know, like you, and it'll still be a famous thing to this day on this show with Tatis and how you got on me. But I think in the long run, you understood where I was coming from.
I understand where you're coming from, but there is also a difference between doing something foolish, but being out on a motorcycle and having sexual misconduct.
Oh no, they're mutually exclusive. They don't belong.
That's apples and oranges.
So, right. But my point is, when you do something stupid, you have to own it. And unfortunately, in sports, a lot of this money is guaranteed, especially for college coaches. In college football, it seems the money is like mostly guaranteed. So all right, pay you out. Go ask Bob Huggins. We talked about that a while back. His had a clause in it, if you remember, that if he did something stupid, he had to pay $1 million back.
Yep.
A contract. So, you know what? I'm changing my mind. He deserves to be fired. That's it. I've talked about it enough.
All right. Let's finish up football before we get to our small, golf and baseball story. We got Thursday night this week, week 3. We mentioned it before. The New York Giants traveling to San Francisco, staying on the West Coast after their incredible come-from-behind victory against the Cardinals to take on Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk potentially.
If he's healthy.
And these San Francisco 49ers. 49ers are a 10.5-point favorites.
Yeah, so I was telling Tom before we were recording this, obviously because we record this the day before, I was waiting for Saquon Barkley because people are going to call me crazy, but Saquon Barkley would have kept this within the 10-point spread if he was playing.
Well, Nick, guess what? Not only is Saquon Barkley out, but one of their only good offensive line weapons in Andrew Thomas, their draft pick from 2020, is also out.
Yeah, so one I'll say, because there's no way in hell. 1, the Giants are not winning this game.
No.
2, the Niners are going to cover this. I'm in full disclosure because I've been trying to get in on the gambling content side. Even though this is a 10.5 now, I locked this in at 10 because I wanted to catch this because I know by tomorrow this is probably going to be, or today I should say when this comes out, this will probably be 11 or 12 at least with Saquon out. So on the 10.5 line, I'm clearly taking the money.
Yeah, so I mean, the second half of that Cardinals game, Nick, was incredible. Like I said, biggest come from behind victory in like the last 99 years in New York Giants football. That being said, You're out with Saquon. You're out with Andrew Thomas. The first 6 quarters of NFL action in 2023 for the Giants, they put up 0 points. Daniel Jones, I don't know what Brian Dable said in that locker room. They were talking about this on the commentary side. That I don't know what Brian Dable said in that locker room, but whatever he said, he must have lit a fire under them. But you know what? There is a difference between playing the Cardinals, who were the worst team in professional football. If you're going to struggle against them, when you're taking on the 49ers, who, Nick, even though we said the Eagles during our preview show were high and above everybody else, we said that the 49ers would be in the mix. A couple of us even had the 49ers going to the NFC title game or to the Super Bowl. So you know what? This is not even going to be close. I would, if we had counted the Thursday games for locks, I would have considered making this a lock, even with the 10.5. But alas, it doesn't. But you know what? Regardless of anything, this one is super easy to pick. Take the money.
I mean, it's tough to lock a game in a double-digit spread. You and I have said that many times. So, but this one's pretty easy with Barkley out.
Yes. All right. In other news, a couple of stories here. Let's go to golf briefly. Phil Mickelson did an interview recently and says he's not wagering on football games this season. He's had a gambling addiction and he is still in the process of recovery. So I give great respect to Phil Mickelson. I give great respect to his restraint, and I'm pushing for him to continue on with his recovery.
By the way, so in the middle of me scrolling and doing some prep and stuff for shows, this long tweet, or whatever you want to call it at this point, drops.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about like a book. Like someone just wrote an essay for a tweet. And he pretty much said, I'm going through my darkest times and blah, blah, blah. Well, Phil, you bet hundreds of millions of dollars on a lot of things, not just football. Apparently, it was a lot of things. I don't know if you saw the story. I think we did it a while back where a book came out about Phil Mickelson, and it was about a bookie who was involved with him and ends up in jail. And this whole thing, and Phil didn't help him, so he exposed Phil for a bunch of things. This is bad. And Phil made a lot of money, and Phil's still making a lot of money on the Live Tour. Like, he got like a $200 million deal from Live, which, by the way, no one is talking about anymore, which is kind of funny after all that BS that happened. By the way, did they even merge? I don't even know if that ever became official. Did it?
Well, mergers always take some time. I mean, the WWE UFC one to create TKO just became official like last week.
What a terrible name for a stock. I digress. This doesn't surprise me. Phil Mickelson has had demons for a while when it comes to gambling, and he had no choice. Going to gambling addiction therapy. This is like Craig Carton all over again, with selling the tickets and scamming everybody. I mean,
yeah, but you know what? It's not going to get to the point, or at least I hope not. It's not going to get to the point where we're going to have a new show called "Hi, My Name Is Phil."
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but it's just
no. But that's if we're not going to get to that point, because I think Phil, he is taking responsibility for his actions, and he understands what I think. Nick, he understands what he has done with all the losing money on the wagering, and he's in the process. And I'm going to root for him.
I mean, I'll root for him. I still, a lot of the reports are that he's a bad guy and he's obnoxious to people and all that jazz. But if I'm never going to root against someone who has an addiction problem.
I'm going to say addiction, yeah, but addiction is, whether it's alcohol addiction, gambling addiction, any sort of addiction, it's brutal.
It hurts. They all hurt the same way. Like, people say, "Oh, well, alcohol addiction can kill you." I mean, gambling can kill you too. I mean,
they all can kill in their own way.
Right. They all can kill you in your own way. So anyone that says alcohol addiction is worse than gambling or smoking or doing drugs or any of that stuff, they all can kill you. And so I don't mean to bring down the mood and be dark, but I hope he gets better, but I'm never going to like him because I've never liked him as a human being.
Right, you don't have to like him personally. I'm just saying professionally, I want to see him better. All right. A couple of baseball stories to quickly go through. Shohei Ohtani has successfully undergone his procedure. So, oh, hold on. Shohei Ohtani has undergone his procedure successfully. He will not pitch in 2024. He will exclusively be a batter. The hope is that now with 2025, he will be able to retake the mound.
Yeah, so he basically cost himself about 100 to 150 million at
Like I
least.
said, I think he could. Like I said, I think he can still get a Judge style contract, if not a little above it.
I mean, Stephen A was coming out in hot take form about Shohei.
Oh, shut
And
up with Stephen A. What does Stephen A know? Remember when Stephen A was like criticizing Anthony Volpe when Anthony Volpe was leading the team like RBIs? What does he know? Like he doesn't watch the games. He probably only watches the Yankee games. Nick, I'm gonna take a line that I saw on X, and I'm gonna take a line that, something that he once famously said on ESPN, twisted in my own version. He should be banned from talking baseball.
it's a good point. But the line, apparently, Stephen A. Smith says Shohei Ohtani doesn't deserve a $500 million contract because the Angels didn't win or fill seats when he was on the team.
And that's Shohei Ohtani's fault? Not
I mean,
Mr. Artie, I should be in jail, Moreno.
oh, okay. Thanks for stealing Hank's line. But my point is that this one's tough because
Nick, this is going to go down. The Angels with Shohei Ohtani is going to go down as one of the biggest waste of time and opportunity in Major League Baseball history.
well, wait a minute. If you're going to say that about Ohtani, you got to say that about Trout too.
Yes. No, but that's my point. They had Shohei Ohtani, they had Mike Trout, and they did fuck all with them.
I mean, that you didn't even make one World Series with either of these guys,
They
even if it was
didn't
one
make
of
a
them.
playoff series. They didn't make the playoffs with the two of them.
Well, that's bad. I can't. Again, I can't, as I would say, I can't argue that or take defense for them.
And I know that Shohei Ohtani was basically shut down. That's why the lockers cleared it. But the fact that the locker it's cleared itself, damage is done. I don't think this relationship's getting repaired anymore, regardless if he has cost himself $100 million or not. I think this relationship is DONE done.
No, and by the way, I'll still go back to a take I made when we first heard the news of the injury and all that stuff. If I'm all of Major League Baseball, I'd make him sit out for the year and make sure that he's fully healthy. And then if you want to give him the contract, come back. Because what happens if he does, you know how they say you have one injury and then you compensate and cause another injury?
But it's tough, Nick. He's one of if not the best player right now in Major League Baseball.
I'm not paying him $500 million just to hit.
But you know what I think is going to happen if that happens? I could very well see a slow free agent market, like that year that Machado and Harper were out there until like March. I honestly could see that if that's the case.
Well, speaking of Machado, Machado's got an elbow surgery. Also,
Yeah, but my point is, the reason I bring that up is, Nick, is because whoever else is available in free agency, if that's the case with Ohtani, they may try to up their own market value, and then, like I said, we're going to get an 18 or 19 MLB off season where all the free agents are just sitting there and there's just no action.
well, here's the one hole I'll poke in that theory. A certain New York baseball owner that is drunk and spends money nonstop.
Uncle Steve?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, maybe there is that theory. And then I really have no idea what the Yankees are going to do. This is one of the first off seasons I can really remember as a fan of the Yankees that I'm like, I have no idea what their plan is going to be.
I mean, if Uncle Steve Cohen was crazy enough, would he throw 550 million, 600 million at Shohei Ohtani and say, you know what? We'll take you.
I
Come
can
here.
see it, Nick. I can see it. The problem is, I think Shohei still has no
Doesn't
desire.
want to be in New York.
He
Yeah.
doesn't, not just New York. He doesn't want to play on the East Coast. He wants to be a West Coast team so he can be closer to Japan. Which means, once again, I'm sticking with the theory that I've had since the beginning, maybe even since the end of last year. He's going to be a Dodger, unless he joins the Giants or the Mariners or something. But I think he's going to be in Dodger blue.
I was going to say, if he really wants, the closest to Japan would be Seattle. So if he really wants to be close to Japan, he would go to Seattle. And that's not a bad place to be right now.
Yeah.
Him and Julio, that would be a heck of a marketing scheme to go out there.
You're telling me. One last story. Hallelujah. The Rays are getting a stadium. They're actually going to move out of the Trop by the end of the decade. In St. Petersburg they're going to get a new stadium, and it looks decent from the original renders. The Tropicana, I mean, I liked it when I was younger looking at it, but then, as you get older, the eyes get better, and just, you see all the flaws painted out there. I guess I liked it because there was the dome, so that way, there was no such thing as a rainout. Hi, Yankee Stadium. Hi, Citi Field. We could have had that here in New York for both
Wait,
stadiums.
you mean the almost $400 million Steve Cohen was going to spend to put a retractable roof on Citi Field?
Exactly. But you know what, Tropicana? At least you're going to get the 2024 WWE Royal Rumble. That's all I can say.
I mean, I think Tampa, the Rays Stadium, was one of the first one where they really had to do ground rules. If you remember back in the day where, like, you hit the light or you hit and all this other stuff. It was this, and it was the old Metrodome.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, like when you went to play the Twins or you went to play the Rays, all right, now I got to remember all the ground rules. Like, that light fixture is a home run. That light fixture is in play. That light fixture is a double.
Yeah. And that's part of what I said about, like, as I get older, just the stupidity of all it.
It's almost like in Dallas with the Cowboys, like when you hit the scoreboard, since it's so large now.
Right. Exactly. Or in, like, backyard baseball, where it's like certain things, like if you're on that beach field, they're like the pond, and there's that line of, like, that's the out of play. Like, it's
You can't make this up. But you know what? I'm happy for them. Hopefully they'll get a retractable roof stadium since it's in Florida. I would hope.
Yeah. And then Nick, with the A's moving to Las Vegas soon, the Rays getting a new stadium. Who knows? By the time the 2030s come around, maybe Rob can finally get on his mission of trying to put expansion teams in Major League Baseball again.
Hey, Nashville, someone might be calling for you soon.
Yeah. And that's going to do it for this edition of Empty the Bench. So make sure to like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified of everything here at the Empty the Bench Network. Follow us across our social media pages, Facebook, X, Instagram at ETB Sports. Follow the network on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at ETB Network. Follow us, remember, youtube.com/ETB Network. Hit that subscribe button so you get notified of everything here at the Empty the Bench Network. Make sure also to follow us on our own social media platforms. I'm at Thomas J. Albano. Nick is at N Morgasen Radio, just scrolling across the bottom there, and on our little name tags. Don't forget to take Empty the Bench on the road with you. If you are watching us on video, you can listen to our audio-only platforms on Acast and others. And if you are listening on those audio-only platforms, make sure to check out the YouTube feed as well. And don't forget to go to etbpodcast.com for information about the network, constant blogs from some of our hosts and some of our bloggers.
Contributors. Yeah.
Contributors, right.
Also, don't miss Football Friday. Obviously, during the football season, noon Eastern on Fridays, all our sports hosts get together and we make our picks for each week. Coming up on week 3 already on the NFL. Like I was telling Johnny from Game On the other day, that it's flying by already. It's flying by.
Which you consider my profession, if you know what I mean. You know how I like it, how it's flying by.
Oh, yeah. You just want the year to be over.
Yeah. All right. Oh. That's going to do it. We're Nick Morgasen. I'm Tom Albano. We'll see you next time on Empty the Bench. Take care, everyone.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.